And we are starting with the session 3 immediately. Session 3 is the global marketplace. Session 3 of day 1 is the global marketplace. And I invite the moderator for this session, Mr. Mrigank Paranspe, Consultant and Independent Director. Can we have a good round of applause for our moderator of the next session, Mr. Mrigank Paranspe? Thank you, sir. And I invite the speakers, Mr. Azhar Tambuwala, Director, Sahyadri Farmers Producers Company Limited, Mr. Ankush Jain, Business Head, Pulses Olam Agri, Mr. Parag Garde, Board Advisor, IPGA, Mr. Ganesh Kasekar, South Asia Representative, Global Organic Textile Standards, and Mr. Vijay Ganeshan Iyer, Head PR and Corporate Relations, Waycool Foods and Products Private Limited. Can we have a good round of applause for all of them? Thank you very much. We are starting with session 3, and again request everyone to kindly take their seats. Session 3 is the global marketplace. The global marketplace, and I request the moderator, Mr. Mrigank Paranspe, to start the session 3. Thank you very much. I invite Mr. Azhar Tambuwala, Director, Sahyadri Farmers Producers Company Limited. Thank you. I request the moderator, Mr. Mrigank Paranspe, to take over the session. Thank you so much.
Panelists with me. So Ronald Reagan said that, nations which became great did not do so because they were big, because they were ambitious, or because they had a great wealth originally. They became great because they embraced global trade. And I think that one message is something which sort of sets the tone for what we want to discuss today. In the last 2 years or 3 years, I think, 2 big events told us why we are so interconnected with the global marketplace. I think on April 19th, if I remember well, just as COVID was about to start or had just started, oil prices went negative for the first time, and the impact was global. Nobody had imagined how to control that. Nobody had imagined how to react to that. Just a year back again, the conflict in Ukraine and Russia sent the prices of wheat and oilseeds soaring, and many people were caught napping. So I think 2 examples big enough to tell us why the global marketplace is so important for us. And I thought that as we are preparing for this talk, what we really want to address is how do we prepare, how do we protect, and finally, how do we profit from this global marketplace? Good questions. My easy part is that I'm going to ask them, and I have a very, very illustrious panel to answer them. So without much ado, and with no particular order, but maybe just the seating order, for your opening remarks, let's start with Azhar and then we'll go forward.
Okay. Sorry, I took that little few minutes to check with the moderator. The opening remarks, because of the topic of the day, which says global marketplace, and I've mentioned this in my earlier session, is we believe that whilst India is the second largest fruit and vegetable grower in the world, but when we look at our contribution in global trade, we are very, very minuscule. And there is a huge opportunity for us as a growers nation, where our GDP is 19% and we employ about 46% of the the labor in India. Having said that, we as a company, and I said this earlier, is we've taken a lot of our learnings from overseas and brought them to India. And what I'd like to do during this panel or even later is share how going out, coming in from outside has helped us as a company understand where to position ourselves and create value for our growers as well as for our customers overseas. When sitting here, when you're trying to understand them from outside, from inside out, has been a bit of a challenge as against coming from inside, from outside in. So leaving that, I think I'll ask other people to continue with this, and then we can share some more specific questions later.
Hi everyone. So almost a decade back, when eventually I get into this field, I heard one thing is that the global market linkages in India is a future thing. But I believe today that the future is now. So I believe that we have reached to a stage wherein we have seen a couple of major events as Moderator has just mentioned that about the COVID and the Ukraine and Russian war, wherein over the past 1 decade there have been significant events which has eventually happened in India and the global level, which has created the need of us to be prepared, be protected and be monetized accordingly. So when I say prepare, when I look at the preparation, so it's not about the product, but largely it's about the scale and the sustainability. So I believe that in India, what the farmers or the entire value chain is required to do today is to have readiness, preparedness from the sustainability perspective, so that we can scale with a pride, we can become one of the largest, not only the consumer, but also a proud exporter as well, to become a global trade partner with many of the countries globally. For which I think when I say preparedness, when I say scale and sustainability, for which I believe coming together as farmers in a groups like FPOs, which government have already taken initiatives, right, to basically understand the need of the requirements globally, work on the productivities. These are the key variables which we have to map very rapidly, wherein government is also supporting now. Second, when it comes to the product, I think the information arbitrage, what I believe that globally now, because of the lot of digitalization, because of the startups coming in, because of the market linkages through a lot of companies from the farmer to the global participants, I think that information arbitrage is now no more there. So which is where I believe the respect for having each and every stakeholder in the entire value chain is building up, and this is the time wherein we have to work together, protect our interest and minimize the information arbitrages through the tools available, and let's try to play a better role there. And I believe profitability, how do I see the profitability? I think profitability is a result of preparedness and the protectiveness. And if we are there on the global forum so strongly, I think monetary and satisfactory profits will be there on the cards. So that's how I see overall preparedness, protectiveness and the profitability from the global marketplace perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, first of all, BCCI for this opportunity. Thank you, Murgangji, for setting the context. So this is now about the global marketplace. So it is a farm to global shelf, is it? So I think we need to factor in the entire value chain here, not confining it only to farmers. Farmers obviously is the originator. So when we talk of preparedness, I would call it making it export worthy. Is it audible? It is about making it export worthy and becoming export ready. So when we say prepare, so what are the things on which one needs to prepare? For that, it is essential to understand challenges which entire value chain, agri-value chain faces globally. And it will include, a plethora of parameters. One of the critical aspects is understanding destination markets. Second is, various policy which are operative across multiple countries. Third could be weather conditions, weather patterns, how the supply-demand situation is going to evolve for multiple, crops in those countries. So all these things are the challenges on which the preparedness is required. When we look at protect as an element or a variable to consider, I guess farmers, obviously we'll talk about farmers more here, they need to protect the output, right? So pre-post harvest losses, how do they protect? They need to protect the overall yields, efficiencies, minimizing, the leakages. So those things will fall under protect. Of course, government will carry responsibility of protecting, interests of entire value chain through various policies. I think we are going to touch base on that as well. And the opportunity to profit, I mean, it can be short term, it can be long term. Short term will be anyway, basis crop cycles and, global parities vis-a-vis, destinations and origins. Long term value creation obviously takes times, maybe decades. For instance, I mean, just to give one example, pea protein, concentrate and isolate as an opportunity, as an exportable product, from peas or pulses. The way China has tapped that opportunity, is it possible for India and, Bharatiya farmers, for that matter, to tap it? So there is a, profiteering opportunities across value chain in short term as well as in long term. I mean, that is my take on 3 parameters.
Well, thanks organizers for giving this opportunity, and even before I say my words, let me agree and let me tell you a fact that I may be the only person in the entire panelist over here which is speaking on the textiles and the fashion industry, and which is one of the most complex and the most activities where we have a lot of permutations and combinations of multiple activities in the entire supply chain from the farming up to the final brandings and retailing segment. Of course, when we talk of textiles, it is one of the most, I believe it is one of the top 3 employee producing segment in the country. A lot of people are directly or indirectly engaged with this segment. But when the question comes of the availability of the raw material in this industry, basically major of the fibers are coming from the agricultural source. So that's how we as a textile industry, as a standard owners of a sustainability standard, we are very much closely linked with from the farm up to the fashion level. When we come to the today's topic of the global marketplace, let me highlight one major part with you. I mean, that will be the core area of what I will be talking about. Cotton, which is called as the white gold. We are one of the largest producing country in the world, and within that, if you talk of the global market share, 38% of the sustainable or the organic cotton comes from India. So you can understand the intensity and the importance of how a farmer or a FPO is having a very significant impact in on this industry. I mean, in the discussions later we will talk further, but that's why I feel this topic is very essential, which actually caters to the interest of the farmers, and which is definitely been taken care by the international brands and retailers directly in current days. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, thank the organizers and Mr. Paranjpe for the invitation. And it's a great honor. Over the years, we have learned the commodities market from him, and to be part of a panel which he is moderating today, it's a great honor. Just taking 20 seconds to just giving the benefit of doubt. Mr. Jayant Menon is actually the name put in the cue sheets that everyone has, but he could not make it due to some unforeseen circumstances. He had to travel from Chennai, and that's how I have been part of this panel. So interesting, all the experienced speakers before me have put forth and set the context here. So as we all know, the best example, 48 hours before is when the Global Biofuel Alliance was announced. Now, keeping that in mind and the topic that we are discussing, clearly the opportunity is there, and there is a lot of things that the whole agri ecosystem in India can become a part of, and thereby solve a lot of problems that we face. And we at Waycool have always been trying to build a demand-driven model in the last 8 years, because primarily all our models have been supply-driven. So a demand-driven model will take care of a lot of uncertainties otherwise that we face. That is what we believe, and we have been trying to practice that. And the three aspects where the context was set by Mr. Paranjpe of prepare, protect, and then profit. I believe the first thing of preparation, I believe, we all know that our farmers are entrepreneurs by themselves. We don't have to teach them what they have to do. They go through one of the most challenging situations and do what they do. So they are best prepared and they know what they have to do. The challenge, I believe, somewhere is to connect them to the marketplace. That is perhaps a work in progress or something which has been deliberated, but a lot still needs to be done. Once that happens, perhaps the protection that we say can be in various forms. Now with agri-tech players coming in, a lot of data is being captured, a lot of things are getting institutionalized. Technology can be a great enabler and thereby great protector for the packages of practices that can be looked at. Even during the previous panel when I was listening, they were mentioning that. And thereby things stabilize, the yields go up, automatically the profit aspect comes in, which is the biggest challenge that everyone faces. So I believe it's a chain, it has to be step by step, but indeed there is a huge marketplace, and connecting the whole ecosystem to the marketplace, I believe, is the biggest challenge and the opportunity. And I'm sure a lot more things would come out with this experience panel during the deliberations. Thanks. Thank you, panelists. So let me start with the sort of input side, as we say, and in that, it is often said that you should grow what sells. So Ankush, to the farmer of Bharat, what would you tell him that he should be growing for targeting the global marketplace?
Sure. I think that's not a very straight or a binary answer which I can give, but I believe the Indian farmer has to definitely understand the change in the consumer habits globally. Now the consumer is no more talking about wheat, rice or pulses. They are largely talking about protein, carbs, fiber. That's a shift. That's a shift which is eventually happening. And we eventually cannot again focus on what can be sold today, but what we have to be prepared for what is going to be sold in the next 1 decade, so that we can earn better, we can position ourselves in a better position today. So there are 2 or 3 key, I would say, product lines. One is definitely the organic product lines, wherein, as Ganesh have also mentioned, that organic protein, right? Sustainable products, for example, sustainable rice, millets. So all these commodities which has a large future, and wherein the Indian farmer eventually can focus with the help of lot of technology which is coming into the play today. So if adopting those technologies, if they can work more towards getting into the right commodities like organic products or maybe sustainable products. So we as OLAM, I think we have been working very close. Just to give an example, I think we are working very closely with more than 10,000 farmers in Punjab and Haryana on sustainable rice, and wherein I think their cost of production have gone down, the productivity have gone up, they are getting much more margins, but it was not looking that on day one. It was a journey which we had to travel. So I think it's a journey which most of the farmers or the FPO groups have to travel, but there are tools available in the market today, and there are companies who are available and who are investing with their time with the farmers and trying to give them a right guidance, right knowledge, and getting into the right products. So I think organic products, sustainable products, and millets. These are the 3 categories wherein definitely farmers should focus on.
Sure. Ganeshji, biotech has some role here, especially when it comes to seeds, and cotton is one good example. But in future, where do you see biotech and its role in terms of preparing better inputs for the Indian farmer globally?
That's always a very big debatable question, and this question has a never-ending answers for sure. But still I will try to cover and highlight on few of the major aspects as far as the modern world is concerned today. When we talk of going with the conventional farming or go ahead with the organic or sustainable farming, it's a debate because both has its both pros and cons, and the farmers choose to go ahead with the farming accordingly. As a standard owner, as a policy makers in a global market from the last 25 years or so, whereby the brands, the retailers, the consumers in the US and the European market, they have stood behind us very strongly and firmly. You know, as Sir said, it's not only about the pulses and a commodity, but a value addition in that. Sustainability has become one of the major criteria in current days. And what do you mean by sustainability is not only of having a green product or something like that, but it should have an overall impact from the social, environmental, and the ethical business practices. And I think all these practices, if being followed precisely by the farmers and in a proper way, and with the brands and retailers getting more and more conscious and focused towards the root level from where their fiber source is coming, I think the direct benefits of this, because of course when we go for sustainable things and all, there are premiums available. But this premium should actually go to in the pocket of farmers also. So now that's the reason why the brands and retailers are themselves coming and standing on the farms. I have myself witnessed few of the global brands coming on the field, interacting with the farmers to have all these things. And then to ensure all these things of the social, environmental and the ethical business practices, lot of technological tools, lot of traceability tools have been adopted and been followed in the market. I think with an agricultural country of India and with majority of the farmer brothers who are into cotton farming, we have witnessed many of the interesting and very fantastic stories which have resulted into the overall improvement of the conditions of the farmers, even in cotton segment also, even though we have some gray areas in that, but there are good success stories as well. So I think the way with sustainable farming and complying and mitigating to the risk and meeting the requirements of the consumers within India and outside India will be a key, and I think we need to follow these systems effectively.
Parag, millets, and I know you have the best brand ambassador in the world available today to market this product. But with that, do you think it is a sustainable crop both for the farmer of Bharat and also an exportable crop to the world?
All right. So when you say, the most renowned brand ambassador for millets is our Honorable Prime Minister, Modi ji, for sure. And whatever efforts, I guess, Agriculture Ministry, along with other ministries, they have taken to promote millets as a superfood, or Shri Anna as a term which was used for millets. I think it's a commendable effort. It has, forget global awareness, I guess the kind of awareness it has created within us, for our generation or generations to come is amazing. So millets, there was one of the panelists here from Mighty Millets, I guess, and I was very, very, pleasantly surprised to see that Mighty Millets full-fledged store just when you step out of Hyderabad airport. And I was fortunate to then visit NutriHub at Hyderabad, which was kind of promoted by IMR, and Dr. Dayakar Rao, he interacted with us. And there are some 80-odd startups housed there in promoting millets-based applications, formats and products. But when it comes to millets, making it a mass consumption staple like cereals and other grains or pulses, dal, roti, chawal, if we really want to bring millets at par with those staples, I think there are a lot of policy interventions that are required. And one is, of course, export worthiness of the product. No doubt in terms of nutritional value, I think it will have a great global acceptance. In having very low GI, having very high fibrous values. There is a potential of extracting protein out of it as well, which can be mixed with various other applications. So great export worthy, product for sure. We in the sense India, we produce broadly 24 million tons of millets. One of the, there could be multiple interventions which can grow this, production further. And 2 or 3 suggestions if we can give, and later on maybe can be followed up with the ministries. And that is one of the role which IPGA, we play at India Pulses and Grain Association. So the minimum support price, except for ragi, where the price is hovering at around 3,800. For bajra, jwar, the MSP is lower, lower than even 30 for that matter. So there is a scope of incentivizing farmers to grow more millets, that is one. Second, many times what we observe, these startups, and while the efforts are absolutely commendable in creating awareness on millets, the proportion of millets which goes in those products is, it's only for the claimant purpose. It may not be really, more than 20%, right? So there has to be some incentive, especially for exportable products, where the millets proportion is more than 20%, can get 6% export incentive, right? So that will actually promote application of millets into exportable, products. And third could be, there could be GST waive off for multiple handling activities which are pertaining to millets. For example, stevedoring or container stuffing and all these activities come up with, GST element which service provider levies on the customer. So if those kind of incentives are offered, I think millets has a great potential to fly abroad. It will be real, farm to global shelf product.
We all know that when it comes to global marketplaces, probably quality and assaying is a very, very important aspect. You need to adhere to standards uniformly and maybe even sometimes better. With your background, Ganeshji, what do you think we need to do as a country when it comes to the assaying and the quality management if we have to face the global marketplace?
Thanks, sir. 20 years of the experience in the quality assurance industry. This happens to be one of the top favorite question of mine. Yes, but when you look at the testing aspects, I mean the quality assurance parameters, testing is one of the major criteria over there. I remember an ideology when at one point of time it was discussed that in India we are very, very soon going to have regulatory things to get the testing of two major aspects. One was the fiber content of your garment and the other one was the chemical testing of azo, the hazardous substances. Honestly, if you look at the malls and if you look at the textile industry at the moment in our country, if we really decide to go ahead with a mandatory testing of at least these two tests, we are not capable with the infrastructure to get these things tested at the right time and at right place. There are very few government laboratories scattered into the various textile hubs. There are very few MNC labs and the service providers who are again having their presence at the industry segment, industry-centric segments only. But let's come back to our very core topic of the agricultural product. And when we talk of let's talk of sustainable product, like a standard like us, we don't allow any GMO to be contained in any of the product. Now, if a farmer, if there is a farming groups across India, and if you see the laboratory setups, they are having no proximity of a lab, so that they can take their samples and get it to a lab and get it for a GMO testing analysis. So I think our country needs to have a very rapid progress in that segment. We need to have a faster mode of, some mode of transporting the samples from the field to the laboratories. Second, we have the Egyptian cotton, which is world famous, but thanks to Government of India, now we are trying to promote our own brand of cotton in the global market. It will be called as Kasturi cotton. But again, to calculate the staple length of the fiber, to calculate the strength, the appearance, the physical and the analytical properties, the pesticide testings, these all still needs to have a lot of laboratory infrastructure. So I think the country should head, because we have been having more focus only on the productivity part, but when it comes to the actual analytical or the physical assessment part, we still need to have a lot of development in that segment.
I think pulses, as we all know, form a part of very important dietary consumption in Bharat. And with the importance of proteins, is that something which we could look at being a big player globally? Let's not forget that this is one of the areas where we are still importing a significant portion also. So, when it comes to the global marketplace, your views on pulses, and I've got two experts here again, so Parag and Ankush, if you can enlighten us.
So pulses, India as a country, we have been net importer for last, more than 2 decades for that matter. And I think calibrated imports in this case is a necessity. Primarily because, 27 million tons is a figure which comes out from Ministry of Agriculture as advance estimate. But the trade estimate is almost 3.5 million tons lower. compared to what is published. So there is a deficit for sure. There are certain, varieties like pigeon peas, tur dal jo hum khate hain. The minimum support price offered to the farmer is 70 rupees per kg. Okay, the out-turn ratio, what we call in milling, is 71%, 72% at the most. So obviously, when it reaches consumer in the bulk format, it is going to be 105 rupees, right? So government will have to do this, very, very tightrope walk of protecting interests of farmer at one end, encouraging him to grow more pulses so that import dependence comes down. But at the same time, subsidizing or offering consumer the right price, because it's a daily staple, it's a daily diet. Without dal, to obviously हमारा खाना होता नहीं है दिन का. So there is an element of having calibrated import in case of pulses. Pulses, as you rightly pointed out, it's a great protein supplement. On an average, 22%, protein availability from pulses. Our, per capita consumption is 46 gram per day, whereas WHO recommends around 78 grams per day, just to mitigate 30% of our protein requirements. And that awareness is growing. Awareness towards vegetarian diet is also growing in that sense. So there is going to be increased demand going forward. So I guess the balance of incentivizing farmers at the same time balancing the end consumer price through imports is going to be the equation in case of pulses for sure.
Thank you, Parag. So in addition to what just Parag has just said, so there are a couple of things which I would like to add here. One is, we are not only the importer, Mr. Moderator here. So we are an exporter also. So we are importers also. So when we talk about pulses, it's not one commodity. It's a mix of, let's say, 10 to 15 different varieties. In somewhat, I take a pride of saying that we are exporting 500,000 ton of FG, which is typically dal. We have to import raw pulses, as Parag has just mentioned that we are short of pulses as a raw material. But we take a pride in saying that we are exporting FG, which is a finished product, which is known as typically dal. And we are exporting not only to Middle East countries, but we are also exporting to European countries, USA and many other countries, wherein wherever there are Asians available, as in residing, they are consuming Indian finished goods of pulses. Secondly, over the past few years, what we have seen is the government of India has taken a step back and eventually incentivizing in two forms to the farmers. One, by increasing the MSP to almost 50% increase in the MSP over the past 4 to 5 years. Secondly, giving them a confidence that boss, you produce, will procure. So for example, in case of chickpeas and mung beans, wherein government has been consistently increasing the MSP from 3,000 rupees per quintal of MSP to 5,300 rupees per quintal of MSP for chickpeas, which is chana. Likewise for mung beans, which used to be about 4,500 rupees per quintal, now it's about 8,000 rupees a quintal. So there have been a steep rise in MSP for the farmers. And if we see from the second perspective, which is giving them a confidence of procurement, now Indian government has been procuring almost 3 million ton of chickpeas every year and about 500,000 ton of mung beans every year. So because of these steps, I think government of India has been able to create a self-sustainability for these two products only so far. But in the other products, let's say lentils, pigeon peas, black mat-pay, there's a long way to go. So as Parag just rightly mentioned that in these products, we have to eventually import. In other products, we are able to export. We are exporting roasted chana. We are exporting pigeon peas chana, pigeon peas dal. So I think to meet the protein deficiency in India, the farmers are really need to be pushed by giving more incentives in terms of increase in MSPs, by giving them a confidence of procuring all of the other pulses as well, so that they can focus more and more pulses production. And we do not need to be a raw material importer. Secondly, we can export as much as we can in terms of the FG. That's a take on pulses.
Sure. Next in the value chain, of course, is the whole warehousing and the whole supply chain. So, Azhar, when it comes to exports, what really think is important? What do we need to do so that we are ready as a nation to exploit the global marketplace?
I think this is an oft repeated question over the years that we've now been saying that, we have probably about 40 40% of fruit and vegetable being wasted en route to the consumer. And importantly is whilst 40% is being wasted, we still are able to feed the entire population. So imagine what happens if we save, let's say even 20%, that's going to go, you're going to go into a production surplus. And that's a huge staggering statistic I think we should all be considering. And for what, why is this happening is simply because of small growers and lack of infrastructure, and especially cold storage infrastructure. Whether it is, we are not able to add value at the farm level, we are not able to have storage facilities, adequate storage facilities or transport facilities. Now if you are able to contain these gaps, we will be able to save and go into production surplus completely. Now for example, let's say you have a mango, and as a Mumbaiite, I'm sure you enjoy the Alfonso mango, you don't think twice about it. But try going to the far east part of India. They don't understand what an Alfonso mango is because it never reaches there. So in your own country, you've got an existing market, but you are unable to reach the product over there. This is simply because the nature of the product requires better carrying facilities, which you don't have. It's a different thing that, okay, all of it is consumed in this part of the world, and the grower doesn't really need to reach there. But imagine what you could do if the mango could reach that part of our country also. And similarly, there are other crops also which are not regional and can reach out outside the country as well as within the country. So there's a huge, and this is where you talk of disruption, and this is where I talk of opportunity. Wherever I see that when there is a problem, there actually is an opportunity. So you've got a problem here, and it's a beautiful problem. If it can be solved, it's got a great business opportunity and great scale to create great value over here.
We always talk about digital nowadays. So with a new age company like Vecool, how are you approaching the global marketplace through all your digital initiatives?
So as you rightly said, sir, what we have done, what we have built over the 9 years is on the digital platform, is the digital infrastructure that we have put in place. As Azharji was rightly mentioning now, the amount of food that India wastes is actually the whole of Brazil can consume. That's the kind of wastage that happens. And if you see vis-a-vis West and what ours, the wastage at our end primarily happens on the way during the transportation, as you was rightly mentioning, unlike the Western countries where it's happening on the table, because we are as Indians always conscious when we have food on our table to ensure there's minimum wastage. Now what we have done primarily is it's all in-house built digital platform. There are close to 56 apps that have been developed over a period of time, which actually talk to each other and thereby connected it to SAP. And over a period of time, 9 years now since the data is available, where an average, whatever industry data numbers are there, the wastage is double digit, particularly on the fresh side. Our wastage is purely because of the digital platform intervention is less than 1%. Now this is purely, we are able to do this because of the technology intervention that has been put in place. And also what we ensure is that how close we can go to the farmers when it comes to the collection. So the whole collection centers at almost at the food doors of a particular cluster of the farmers, and that is where your wastage comes down. Thereby the farmer gets a better realization, and thereby if there's a good yield, again his profits go up. So digital, if you see, is going to be the core, and as you rightly said, in the last 5 years or so, the disruption that is happening using digital is enormous, and it would perhaps be the most critical factor, as I was also referring in my opening remarks, when it comes to the whole of infrastructure building that is going to happen and the logistics that is going to be built. Yes, on the physical infrastructure, indeed the logistics costs have come down in the last 5 to 7 years because of the massive infrastructure, railways, ports, roadways, so on and so forth. But warehousing and storage is something still work in progress. but yes, using digital and particularly also seeing how the warehouses can be strategically located so that the transportation is minimal. At the same time, to ensure technology is used and there's a minimal hand touch or hand usage, thereby the shrinkages go down. So indeed, digital is something that is going to be buzz not only for the logistics or the warehousing, but I believe across the ecosystem for agri sector as a whole, and that would be critical to decide how quickly we could connect our farmers to the marketplace and thereby enable them to go global.
Thanks. Scale, as we all know, is very important, and I think two people here I would really want to understand when it comes to scale. Azhar, first from your side, building scale at the farmer end, and then Parag, maybe building scale as an industry. If you can help us understand how we can build better scale in India.
I think we've already kind of set an example to show how we can build scale, It's just that one entity are not enough and we need so many more entities similar like ours which can completely revolutionize Indian agriculture. Having said that, I think there's no more argument left that a collective is the answer to the problems that, to your question. 80% of Indian farmers are marginal and they are hardly about 2 hectares. And when these small marginal farmers on their own do not understand much, in the sense they are restricted because in India we have farming as sustenance farming. If he doesn't plow his land, he doesn't know, he's not going to have anything to eat. In other countries, you have commercial farming. You have large swaths of land, 500 acres, 1,000 acres, and they're running it as a business. Whereas in India, farming is more sustenance. Now, when this sustenance farming is there, when he is open to the vagaries of temperature and climate and soft finance and hard finance and all that you have together, he is unable to really focus and create scale because he's so focused simply on surviving. Now, when a multiple number of farmers come together with an objective where they can then together build scale of, let's say, branding, volume, they can negotiate better with input, they can negotiate better with bankers, they can negotiate better with customers. When you create that kind of a collective which has the power to be able to go out and speak stronger, that is when scale matters. And that scale is very much possible. This is where the farm laws were actually talking about it. For whatever reason, they were kicked off the bench. But factually speaking, it is empowering the small farmer to take charge of his own destiny. Individually, today a farmer is dependent on so many external factors which drive his destiny. Here, a farmer bringing in a collective together, all of them together can actually create their own paths. They can create their own value system. And that scale is definitely possible because it already exists. It's not about creating scale differently. The scale exists, it's a matter of aggregating them together, creating a value, creating collectives, and just running it in a professional manner. A lot of times the farmers do not have the professional management, but this can be hired. So if you get professional management and do it, I think scale is very simple.
And Parag, what can we do as an industry?
Right, so as Azhar actually captured it pretty well. So Indian agriculture and especially staples or grains in that sense already is at a scale. Right now, it's a matter of organizing this scale to benefit, in domestic market as well as in global markets. So I mean, just to give an analogy, it's a flood water which is running havoc vis-a-vis water collected in a dam which eventually provides significant usage. So in case of, I'll give example of pulses in this case because IPGA we are working and we are in a way a conduit between industry and the government in that sense. And there are 2 themes which we have identified where this organization of skill is required. So first is post-harvest loss prevention of the crop. And that is where the interventions like food parks, clusters where farmers can bring their crop. It can be made market worthy, it can be made export worthy especially, where there will be certification services provided where the crop and even the final produce, which could be processed foods as well, basis that crop, can be certified to be export worthy. So that kind of scale, organization is required as far as, harvest loss prevention is concerned. And second is a modernization. So when it comes to pulses or dal mills, I would call it more of a semi-organized sector, unlike in case of, say, edible oil refineries and all. And that is where mill modernization will play a critical role. Now it has to happen. I mean, very difficult to go to MSME kind of a player, 100 tons per day capacity mill, and ask him to modernize. Right? So in this case, again, associations like IPJ work as a conduit, where MOFPI, Ministry of Food Processing and Industries, they have earmarked certain funds which can be channelized to this sector for mill modernization. And the first step there is creating the set of compliances, basis which they will qualify for modernization. And I'm glad to say, when we say there are joint efforts, and some of the colleagues are sitting here, so corporates like Adani, Tata's, Food Chain ID, they are helping us, working along with us. Rather, we are only anchor. They are actually working on a handbook for millers, which will provide guidelines. And once you comply to those guidelines, you are eligible for modernization funds, which will be allocated from the government side. So those are some of the examples of where scale can be channelized.
Okay, so we are really short of time, as we were told. So I'm going to drop two important things which I would have loved. One is the question about what you would ask from the government, and the second is the audience round. So I'm going to put all of you on the spot, 30 seconds only. Your commitment to what you will do to help the farmer of Bharat to exploit the global opportunities. 30 seconds, each one of you, and then we can conclude.
30 seconds. So I would say, as I said in the opening, Indian average farmer knows what he has to do. It is only give them the required support, give them the required technology, and enable them to become self-sufficient in terms of what they are doing, connect them to the market. They will rise to the occasion, I'm sure. And from the government perspective, we always have been discussing and deliberating this.
No, only for you. So,
okay.
So Vekul, next year we will see how many farmers we've enabled.
Yes.
30 seconds for me is perfect timing, because we have a very clear vision at GOTS. We believe that, and we make sure that the organic fibers becomes a day-to-day commodity of each and every life, because from the standard perspective, we completely believe into the social, environmental and ethical business values, which is only going to be for the betterment and beneficial for the human race. Thanks.
I think related to import-export tariffs, government will have to have a clear window policy wherein they should follow, first of all, crop cycles and announce policy beforehand, at least for the year. For instance, wheat, export ban. At the same time, we have 44% import duty. I mean, these are absolutely diagonal contradictions, right? So there has to be some clarity beforehand, which will help not only trade, but eventually the farmer as well. And it will prevent sending wrong messages to farmers that we are stopping export not to bring the price down, but to feed our own, 1.4 billion population.
Among the, one of the projects which we eventually follow in Olamikri, one project which is relevant for this in 30 seconds, we are here to empanel FPOs out of Maharashtra and Karnataka to support them in selling their produce in pulses and wheat and rice for sure. And that is something which we can do across the nation and expose them to the opportunities in the global marketplace.
Sorry, we are already on this path of connecting our growers to the global markets. And at the moment, we have about 18,000 growers who are linked to us, and we help them with technology, with agri-inputs, and all that is required to bring them to the marketplace. And our target is about 25,000 growers within our portfolio. And it's not only about growing standards, but the entire chain. We often believe that a lot of solutions are being prepared which are more specific to a particular problem. But we believe if you want to be successful, you've got to have a clear chain and a link which kind of all the links are firing together. You cannot have only be addressing one particular problem. So so my commitment would be, to tell you that, we are achieving that, and we intend achieving a larger scale, because we have got certain production capacities, and to optimize that, we need to reach about 25,000 growers. That's what we're doing.
Thank you. There are two fools in every marketplace. One asks for too little and one asks for too much. Let's hope that the farmer of Bharat finds the right price and the right product as he exploits the global marketplace. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My panelists are here. They will answer many more questions during the lunch break. But thanks BCCI for a great session opportunity that you gave all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the great insights. I request everyone to kindly be here for some time. There is a next very interesting and important session just for 10 minutes. It is end-to-end solution for water conservation, very important for farmers and everyone. I invite Director General Bombay Chamber, Sandeep Khoslaji, to kindly come upon the dais and felicitate the moderator, Mr. Mrigank Paranspe. Director General Bombay Chamber, Sandeep Khoslaji, I request Khosla sir to be on the dais for the group photo. I request the moderator sir to felicitate the speakers, Ankush Jain. As Azhar sir was there for the first session, we are going to Ankush Jain, Mr. Parag Gadre, Mr. Ganesh Kasekar, and Mr. Vijay Ganeshan Iyer. Thank you very much, and time for a group photo.